Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Africa Today, where we bring you the latest affairs from Africa. Today's topic is all about South Sudan and the arms embargo there by the UN and the situation in South Sudan with the rebel Riek Machar and Salva Kiir as well. This is the main issue that we're going to take a look at today. We have a report for you right now, which is about the UN sanction monitors, saying that an annual report on the Security Council should place an arms embargo on South Sudan, while the oil-rich country's President Salva Kiir and rebel leaders Riek Machar qualified to be sanctioned over atrocities in the 2-year civil war. Let's go take a look at the report.
A report by a UN panel that monitors the conflict in South Sudan for the Security Council stated that President Salva Kiir and rebel leader Riek Machar are still completely in charge of their forces and are therefore directly to blame for killing civilians and other actions that warrant sanctions. The 15-member Security Council has long threatened to impose an arms embargo, but veto power Russia, backed by Council member Angola, has been reluctant to support such an action. Russia's UN ambassador Vitaly Churkin said on Monday he was concerned that an arms embargo would be one-sided because it would be easier to enforce on the government. The panel asked the Council to blacklist high-level decision-makers responsible for the actions and policies that threaten the peace, security and stability of the country. The names of the individuals the panel recommend for sanctions in the form of an international travel ban and asset freeze were not included in the body of the report. But a diplomat familiar with the contents said that a highly confidential annex calls for blacklisting both Kiir and Machar. A political dispute between Kiir and Machar, who was once Kiir's deputy, sparked the civil war, but it has widened and reopened ethnic fault lines between Kiir's Dinka and Machar's Nuer people. The monitor said in the report that UN peacekeepers in South Sudan are also regularly attacked, harassed, detained, intimidated and threatened.
Welcome back. We're joined on the line right now by Dr. Mustafa Radai, political analyst. Good afternoon to you, sir. Dr. Mustafa? Dr. Mustafa, can you hear me, sir? Dr. Mustafa? Okay, we're having some technical problems right now. We're going to go on to the next report that we have, which is about Kenyan forces pulling out from 2 military bases in Somalia days after an armed attack on one of the bases killed over 20 of its soldiers. Let's take a look at the report.
Kenyan forces have pulled out from 2 military bases in Somalia, including one attacked by the group of Al-Shabaab. Local residents said Al-Shabaab fighters have seized the southern town of Budhade after the troops retreated. Soldiers also left Al-Ada, where Al-Shabaab said it had killed about 100 Kenyan soldiers 11 days ago. A Kenyan army spokesman said troops were involved in a normal operational maneuver and not a withdrawal. Kenya, which contributes about 4,000 troops to the 22,000-strong African Union force battling the Shabaab in Somalia, has not said how many of its soldiers died in the attack on El Ari, which is in the southwestern region of Gedo. If Al-Shabaab figures are correct, it would make it the deadliest attack on Kenyan forces since they crossed into Somalia in 2011. A Somali MP said it was unfortunate that Kenyan troops had withdrawn from Badare, some 100 kilometers from the border of the two countries. But residents in Elade said they welcomed the pullout from their town as they had been subjected to constant harassment and airstrikes from Kenyan forces since the assault on the base. They said several civilians had been killed during the Kenyan operations. Reports from Somalia suggested that the Kenyan army has not been winning the hearts and minds of residents, even though they are recapturing some towns from al-Shabaab. Analysts said this is something that it will have to address, or residents could end up colluding with al-Shabaab, putting Kenyan troops under greater threat in a country where many people are deeply suspicious of foreign intervention.
Welcome back. We're joined again on the line with Dr. Mustafa Reda, a political analyst. Good afternoon to you, sir. Good afternoon, Dr. Mustafa. Dr. Mustafa. Can you hear me, sir?
No.
You can't hear me properly? Dr. Mustafa? Sir, can you hear me now? Dr. Mustafa. This is a video about the UN embargo on the South Sudanese crisis. Obviously, you can see here that there is major infighting within South Sudan itself. The rebel forces have been fighting for their rights. Dr. Mustafa, can you hear me now? Dr. Mustafa? Dr. Mustafa Reda? Well, we're having some technical problems. We're going to try to get back again with Dr. Mustafa Reda. And this is more video from the South Sudanese army and what's happening there. The UN has been trying to put an arms embargo on the South Sudan, in addition to adding some sanctions and possibly even trying Salva Kiir and the rebel leader Riek Machar, because they are directly involved, according to the UN, in massacres involving the death of civilians, from women, children, the elderly, even men and army personnel as well. The UN wants to hold them responsible for this because, according to the UN, Salva Kiir is in full control of his army and therefore is directly responsible for the action of his army. The 15-member Security Council has long threatened to impose an arms embargo, but veto power Russia backed the council member Angola in saying no to these sanctions. The position there is not quite known why. As you can see, South Sudan is a relatively poor country, a very new nation that has only been founded just a few years ago. And since then, there has been a struggle for power amongst different factions within South Sudan itself. The UN panel reported that some 2.3 million people have been displaced since the war broke out in 2013, while some 3.9 million face severe food shortages. The African Union is obviously going to try to deal with the humanitarian situation there, in addition to the African Union having to deal with the crisis in South Sudan, trying to mediate things between them. Well, unfortunately, because of technical problems, we're going to have to end the episode here, but stay tuned for more updates on Nile TV.